Good morning, AP Gov students. Mr. Bell here. We're going to get started. We're going to review Unit 4. I'm going to do screen share in a second. This goes over political culture and ideology. Email me any questions to bsbell@clevelandcountyschools.org. Any ones you email me, I'll go over tomorrow. So between now and when I record tomorrow, I'll be glad to answer those. This is a short one to review. This is an easy one to review, but it's also a very important one to review. So hopefully you're studying for your AP Gov exam coming up on May 10th. So let's go ahead and get started here. All right. Political culture and ideology. If it says the left, that's liberal, that's Democrat, the right, that's conservative, that's Republican. All right. Social capital is social norms, basically how you treat one another, how you cooperate. Not going to be so important here. One thing to know is political capital. So basically, when a president comes into office, he has so much political capital. Usually, Congress will allow him to get one thing done he wants. And if that works, he'll gain more political capital. If that's a failure or it's unwanted, he burns his political capital and it becomes hard to compromise. I hate to go back to Obamacare, but Obama forced that down the House and Senate's throat. It came back to bite him. He spent all his political capital on that. Political culture. We know our political culture is sharply divided. We have divided government. We have the media that tears us apart. Natural rights, is John Locke. You also know the social contract is John Locke. Freedom, property, equality, which has evolved over time, whether you're talking about going from ending slavery to civil rights to giving women the right to vote to Hodges versus Obergefell, legalizing gay marriage. All right, let's look at this. Majority rule, meaning more than 50%. So here's what that means. The party that has power, over 50% of the House and Senate, they're controlling the path of the American government. Majority rule. Okay, popular sovereignty is being governed based on the will of the people. Let's see. Chief Justice John Marshall had this famous quote regarding the Supreme Court. The government of the U.S. has been empathetically termed a government of laws and not men. That's why we have checks and balances. No man, even the president, as Richard Nixon found out, as Bill Clinton found out, is above the law. It will eventually come back and bite you if you break the law while in office. Okay, these are just some basic overviews on the rule of law. Not worried about it here. Let's talk about nationalism. Nationalism is pride in one's nation, sometimes to a fault. Let's look at patriotism versus nationalism. I misspoke when I said nationalism is pride in one nation. I meant to say patriotism is pride in one's nation. This is having an American flag sticker on your car. This is celebrating the 4th of July. This is getting your Old Navy flag t-shirt. That's what patriotism is. That's awesome. We need that in our country. What is not always awesome is nationalism, where because you're an American or you're from whatever country, you feel you're superior to everyone else just because they were not fortunate enough to be born into the country that you were born into. Okay. And nationalism unchecked can lead to things like the rise of Hitler and Nazi Germany. Nationalism can be a very powerful political tool in all the negative ways. So keep that in mind. The American dream has evolved over time. Andrew Jackson was the first president to really coin the term the American dream, or it derived from Andrew Jackson. He grew up poor. His parents abandoned him when he was 13. He joined the Revolutionary War effort. He was this war hero in New Orleans. He became a lawyer. You get the picture. He went from nothing to something. Now, the American dream's different for everybody, kind of, but it's still that opportunity to climb the social hierarchy. All right. Just because you're born poor doesn't mean you stay poor your whole life. It could mean that, but because of the way the structure of American capitalism, it's not supposed to be that way. Capitalism. So we are a capitalist nation. The most important thing in a capitalist economy is competition. All right, we want companies to compete against each other. So when it comes to shoes, we want Under Armour to compete against Nike, to compete against Adidas, to compete against Jordan brand, to compete against KD's, because we want the best shoe for the best price. And if there was only one shoe company, they could charge whatever they wanted to, and the shoes could be as crappy as they wanted to. They wanted them to be, and people would still have to buy them if they wanted a shoe. Social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. What does this mean in business? If a business doesn't adapt, it fails. Blockbuster refused to adapt. Their online platform was late. They never pursued streaming. So what ends up happening? They fail. Netflix takes their place. Redbox takes their place. I told you the story of the guy who worked at Blockbuster who was laughed at for his idea of basically what would become Blockbuster Express, and he started his own company, Redbox, which is still around. And that Blockbuster is no longer around. The opposite of capitalism is socialism. So what's the difference between? I'm going to skip ahead here. What's the difference between socialism and communism? The big difference is socialism is the government controlling most things. Communism is the government controlling all things. But the big difference is communist countries like Soviet Russia do not allow the right to private property. So the big difference between communism and socialism allows private property, communism does not. Let's go back here to where we were at. All right. So what do you need in a capitalist economy? You see it there: private property, competitive markets, economic incentives, meaning that somebody's incentive to make more money is good for everybody, because they know the best product they make, the more money they make, it's better for the consumer. We get better goods. Limited government involvement, as this was called in France, laissez-faire, meaning that the government stays hands off. All right, the government does need to stay hands off in a capitalist economy, but it can't be too hands off. That leads to recession and depression. So how has the economy changed? How has government interference in the economy changed? One, the Industrial Revolution. There's been two of them, but the first one, as we begin to go toward, in the Northeast, more manufacturing-based jobs, you had terrible accidents with kids working in factories, people being basically having no choice but to live in factories, people working 60, 70-hour work weeks before the Fair Labor and Standards Act changed the work week to 40 hours. So our government had to enforce rules and regulations to catch up with these two industrial revolutions, make those workplaces safe when people are there, but also to protect the worker. The Great Depression led to more government involvement in the economy after Republicans like Warren G. Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover deregulated the economy to a fault. It led to corruption. It led to the greatest economic fallout of all time, which meant that now the government was going to babysit business a little bit, which is what FDR did. Let's go to 4.2, political ideology. Here's your big ones: conservatism, liberalism, libertarianism, socialism, environmentalism. If you're given a choice to write about one of these on the AP Gov test, they may not give you a choice. They pick the one you know best. Don't try to be some hero and prove something you may not know. If you're a conservative, write about the conservatism. If you're a liberal, write about liberalism, okay? Conservatism, here's the basics of it, okay? They want tiny government, pro-gun, spend a lot on the military, usually deny climate change, more pro-religion, pro-life, means against abortion, of course, less regulation. Liberalism's the opposite. So if you know one of these, you know that the other, because it's just completely the opposite. More gun government regulation, higher taxes. You could have a situation where somebody is fiscally conservative and socially liberal. That usually falls within libertarianism. So when it comes to the social issues, all right, what they want is the government to stay out of those, but they also want the government to stay out of business as well. The only thing they really want the government involved in is operations involving the military, foreign policy. Socialism, we just went over. You know, government controls most things, not all things. There's still the right to private property. Now, here's why socialism works in Sweden, works in Denmark. Those are much smaller countries. There's more people that live in New York City than live in all of Denmark. So they can afford to keep up an entire country where we can't afford to keep up an entire country, because each of our states is the equivalent to the population of their entire country. So it's impossible for us to pay for health care for all and things of that nature, as good as it would be. Environmentalism, this is the Green Party. They put the environment above all. They say we don't have a safe, clean earth. None of this other stuff matters. The problem is they do it to the point and hurt jobs, okay? Make unemployment go up. They're shutting plants down, shutting factories down, whatever it takes to protect the environment. Not a very practical party. You see, that was a very short review. Let's look at the vocab here for this unit. Unit 4. Pretty much everything we just went over. I know that was a very short lesson. Be working on the ideology assignment. You got to Friday to do that. Be doing your Quizlet. Be studying your note cards. Email me any questions you have. And good luck. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going well. And let me know if you need anything. Thank you.